Is the issue, do you think, more about a desire for sex or coupling?
You mean in terms of why people aren't having it?
Yeah.
It's probably both. I think at the core, everybody wants to find someone. Many people may say that they've given up and they're happy on their own, but I do think that's what most people deep down want. And sex is, the thing with sex, though, I think porn is a big part of this issue in terms of why people are turning away from actual sexual activity. They're getting their needs met through this proxy that simulates real sexual activity, because when you're watching porn, the same network of brain regions is activated as when you're actually having sex. So you're having the resulting orgasm and you are, getting these feel-good chemicals. It helps to self-soothe and regulate your emotions, help calm down if you're stressed out. And so it makes men, I think in particular, less likely to want to go out and go through the hassle of having to talk to a woman, having to sit through a date, having to pay for the date, having to follow up and all this stuff. Like, why bother do that if you can get sexual gratification on a screen? But I think also that leads to potentially like an overall sense of lethargy, because when you are masturbating and having orgasm, you are, you're going to be sleepy after. So is that also, you can tell me, do you think this is a trend, not for you, but just a trend more generally with young men?
Try again.
In terms of, does this affect their motivation? Because I'm wondering for guys, this question of why men are falling behind in society, right? And I'm very concerned for young men, because I hear all the time from parents that their daughters are doing really well, excelling academically, but their sons, just for whatever reason, are just, they're not enjoying it. They're having mental health issues.
I think they're just staying at home and fapping all the time.
Yeah. Well, maybe not fapping, but they're like, vaping and playing video games or online betting or whatever, and they have no motivation. Do you think porn could be part of that? Because I think if you're exposed to this at such a young age, and this is the thing that you're watching every day, and it's your coping strategy, that potentially that's the thing you're going to constantly gravitate toward, and it's actually going to, make you really sedated and lethargic more broadly in life.
Yeah, I think sedated is a great word. I've got another idea that Scott probably can't wait to fucking misquote. The male sedation hypothesis, young male syndrome, which I know that you know about. Historically, high volumes of young sexless men tended to cause anarchy and revolutions and push over granny and set stuff on fire. Why is it, given that we've seen the highest rates of sexlessness amongst young men in the modern world, that we're not seeing the concordant amounts of antisocial behavior? And it's my belief that men are being sedated out of their status-seeking and reproductive-seeking behavior through screens, video games, and porn. And yeah, that's what's happening behaviorally. Maybe there's some endocrine disruptors, maybe a lot of weed. I think more young guys smoke weed than drink alcohol now. So yeah, it is a real push toward lethargy. Do I think that you're anesthetizing yourself from your sort of mate-seeking behavior by being able to use porn? Almost certainly, to a degree. I mean, there's even the opposite, which is, what was it? Masturbate before you evaluate was a tagline at university, which was, do I really want to sleep with that girl? Let me have a wank first and work out if I still do. And for the most part, the guys were like, no, wasn't that? I like, what was it? I didn't like you. I was just horny. And in some ways, you go, that avoids me from making a mistake. But when you do it en masse and when it's very easily available, I mean, look, there's some mixed bag data. Dr. David Ley is very anti-porn panic. I know Mike Israetel's very anti-porn panic too. And then on the other side, there's some people that behaviorally, it's not recognized as an addiction properly yet, I don't think.
Right.
But it seems impossible to me that one of the strongest drivers for humans being given to them freely, they can essentially push a button, like rubber button for a while, and and they get to experience this thing that, I mean, you know what would be fascinating? I would have loved to have seen in hunter-gatherer tribes how much masturbation occurs. Like, is
probably too busy foraging.
Okay, well, that might be true. Just talk to me, the neuroscience of porn use. Is there anything distinct about that that's different to what's happening when people have sex?
Okay, I was going to say something. Oh, so what I was going to say, I agree with you in terms of like, I can see if you're doing it like constantly and it becomes a lifestyle thing, this is what my concern is, if it's like a lifestyle thing for guys. Because I've had men say to me, if when they are not watching porn, if they manage to cut out porn entirely, that they actually have more motivation to go up and talk to a woman. Because I would imagine if you see a woman that you're attracted to and you want to go speak to her and say you're maybe more shy or anxious, you know in the back of your mind that you can go home and masturbate and that's going to give you a release after. So in some ways, would that not make it a little bit easier for younger guys, especially who may not have as much experience with women, and especially post Me Too, where they're already a little bit understandably more scared to talk to women, how knowing that you have this other option might...
That's a good point. That is a good point. I mean, it's the same thing as if the only way that men could get sex was by marrying a woman, asking her father, becoming a pillar of the community, showing his competence, or if you just need to be in a nightclub at the right time in the right place at 2 a.m. Like, men will meet those standards appropriately, including the standards for themselves in order to get sexual gratification through a screen. I mean, it is, I can't remember who it was that said it to me, but just for a second, think about how stupid the human brain is and think about how strong our sex drive is. That looking at a 7-inch across screen that I am not a part of someone else having sex with someone else can confuse my brain into thinking some sex is going to happen here.
Yeah.
Like that is how strong this drive is, right? That a 2-dimensional, exclusively video and audio representation on a teeny tiny little screen popped up against a pillow is enough to convince your brain there might be some sex on. You should respond appropriately.
Yeah.
It is mad.
Also think about what it's doing to kids. Like, this is one of the rabbit holes I've been going down more recently and thinking about how has this affected Gen Z's development if they're exposed to porn at such a young age. But in terms of the difference between, say, what's going on in the brain, so same brain network, basically, like regions that are involved in physiological arousal, penile tumescence, visual regions. This was my dissertation, actually, so it takes me back now. I'm trying to remember what other parts of motor.
You did a dissertation on penile tumescence?
No, not just penile tumescence, but it was on basically like male sexuality and sexual arousal. And yeah, I looked at the structure and function of the brain. I used 4 different types of brain imaging. It was a lot of fun. It was a very expensive study, but I was I was extremely blessed.
Really fun for the men. Yeah.
And so basically, it's the same network. It's not activated as strongly, but it's very much the same regions, and that's why pornography is so compelling. And why I think for people who, especially if that is your primary mode of sexual release, it very much become a preference or a stand-in.
You're habituating. More than anything, it's just, what do you do? Guys that tend to go to the same bar all the time, sit in the same seat, order the same coffee. Like, this just becomes a part of your daily routine. And there's this weird habituation effect, I think, with porn. Mary Harrington calls it the law of fap entropy, which is whatever you start out wanking to gets progressively more extreme over time.
That's actually, I like her work, but actually that's not exactly accurate.
Tell me what is accurate.
For guys who end up watching, quote, extreme stuff, that's actually what they liked all along. It just took them a while to admit it to themselves.
Oh, God, the algo wasn't delivering them what they needed until it took a bit of time to refine it.
Well, because understandably, men who have these unusual sexual preferences, they're
blueberry porn,
a little bit, balloons. Yep. They're a little bit more reluctant to say out loud. So
even to themselves.
And so
that's so interesting.
When they're explaining to, say, their partner or their friends, or if they're talking about this,
that's so good. I love that. I mean, the law still works, but not for the reason that you think. It's not a progressive habituation to more extreme stuff. It's a progressive revealing to yourself of what you wanted. That's so cool. What about gooning? Let's talk about gooning.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, you could spend your life masturbating, watching porn if you want to. There's enough content out there for sure. So gooning, I'm sure your audience knows what this term is, but it's basically predominantly men who like to masturbate to no end in sight. And basically, my understanding, they might have multiple screens open for hours. They don't reach an orgasm. It's like edging, but for a longer period of time. And they don't really have any conflict about it. They quite enjoy it.
How's porn affected women?
I think there are more women struggling with porn issues than people realize, because this has predominantly been an issue, like, say, porn, quote, addiction. Although, like you said, I don't believe porn is addictive. I think it's a poor coping mechanism for people who have anxiety and who procrastinate. That's generally what it's been
Mm.
when I talk to men with this problem.
Sedating, not addicting.
Yeah, well, because if you say you
Comforting.
have anxiety or you lack assertiveness, it's a very easy way to distract yourself and not have to deal with the problems in your life, which I have a lot of compassion for people who struggle with this, because I think because it's pornography, it's related to sex, it's a lot more stigmatized. So I understand why people want to call it an addiction, because there have been studies that claim that it's addiction, but they don't account for other confounding variables. So they don't ask about things like paraphilias. They don't, from what I've seen, they don't ask about anxiety. So you don't know when you're looking at these brain regions that are supposed to be different, that are correlated with addiction. You don't know if what you're seeing in the people with porn problems is due to addiction, or is it due to the fact that they're anxious, or the fact that they have these unusual sexual interests. So I think that research could be a little bit cleaner. If it does happen, that new studies come out showing this, then I'm fully on board with that. But I'm just not really convinced, because when you talk to guys with porn problems, almost always they have anxiety. And this is a way for them to avoid talking to their spouse or their girlfriend.
So what's different with women?
Women, I think it's the same thing. We don't know as much about women because this is an issue that I think has only really become more of a problem with the younger generation, maybe even millennial women, like younger millennial women, with the accessibility of porn. But I think even, because it's even with studies, when they're looking at, say, the effects of porn on kids, women have only really started to show more negative body image, say, or body comparison more recently, because girls are being exposed to it now. Girls tend to watch porn later than boys, and they tend to watch it maybe once or twice out of curiosity. But I do think with like Gen Z, they're being exposed to this even before their first sexual experience, before their first orgasm. They can't make sense of it. And I think that it can be integrated into their life a little bit more. So the same thing, I think anxiety, usually for anyone with a porn issue, there's a history of some form of sexual trauma, unfortunately. So there it's a way that
anyone with a porn issue,
can
or
revisit it.
most people with a porn issue, there is some history of sexual trauma.
Not everyone, but in my experience, many of them have had some issue with, either with abuse or being exposed to porn at a young age, either accidentally, and that was like a traumatic thing. Like when I say trauma, I'm not, the way sometimes people use the word trauma nowadays is very flippant, right? They use it over the
You mean actual
insignificant thing. No, yeah, I'm referring to something that is actually quite horrific and awful. Or they, or they might have been shown it in the process of grooming.
So what do you think's going on? Is it just disinhibition, dysregulation? Is it the same reason that people who maybe had a childhood trauma struggle with gambling, or struggle with drugs or alcohol, or their emotions, rage? Is it just the same, but the particular pathway these people have found is porn? Or is there something specific about the mechanism that porn gives that helps them to sort of, I don't know, alchemize, or try and alchemize whatever they went through?
It could be partially a biological thing, because it's like a self-soothing thing. So especially for children, if they're not taught ways to self-regulate, they're looking for ways to feel good when they're stressed out or upset, right? So some people gravitate toward drugs and alcohol. Other people might gravitate toward porn. I think it depends on how old you are, probably when you come across it initially, what your experience is when you see it. Like, is it a pleasurable thing? But I think for the men, say, who've, like when I was doing research, who had these negative experiences in childhood, it was a way of revisiting it to try and make sense of it, I think. But I really strongly believe like sitting down with a competent therapist and working through that stuff could be very helpful for people.
A quick aside, you've probably heard experts like Dr. Rhonda Patrick talk about the benefits of omega-3s. They reduce, omega-3s. There they are. They reduce brain function. No, they don't. They support brain function. Maybe I should take more. They support brain function, reduce inflammation, improve heart health, and are backed by hundreds of studies. But here's the thing, all omega-3s are not made the same. Most brands cut corners. They use cheap fish oil, skip purity testing, throw in fillers, and call it a day. But with Momentous, you know you are getting the highest quality omega-3s on the market. They're NSF certified for sport, and they're tested for heavy metals and purity. So you can rest easy knowing anything that you take from Momentous is unparalleled when it comes to rigorous third-party testing. What you read on the label is what's in the product, and absolutely nothing else. Best of all, Momentous offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy it and try it for 29 days. And if you don't love it, they'll just give you your money back. Plus, they ship internationally. Right now, you can get 35% off your first subscription and that 30-day money-back guarantee by going to the link in the description below, or heading to livemomentous.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's livemomentous.com/modernwisdom and modern wisdom at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. Ooh, a tasty morsel of a clip there for you. Well, the full episode is available right here. Come on. Press it.